Welcome, everyone. This is Alberta Moore at the Al Wooten Jr. Center, and we're getting situated for today. And I'm bringing up my PowerPoint. Because it was up. But we were, as we were talking, we were talking about just all the stuff that's going on. COVID is, the numbers went down and now they're coming back up. In addition to that, now we're dealing with the monkeypox. It's so much going on. So we're gonna talk to Wendy about just kind of making it through tough times. But before we get started, I have my PowerPoint. It's up now, so I will share it real quick. And Wendy's going to start right after I tell you a little bit about the Al Wooten Jr. Center. The Al Wooten Jr. Center, Youth Center, is a nonprofit organized and founded by Myrtle Faye Rump in 1990 in honor of her son killed in a drive-by shooting. The center provides free after-school and summer programs for grades 3 to 12 in the South Los Angeles area. The Parent Power Group workshops are presented in partnership with the Green Foundation and other donors, which can be found at www.wootencenter.org/donors. This is the last session for this month. We'll start up again in June. Next week is Memorial Day. So we're wishing everyone to have a great Memorial Day. But giving a couple of announcements regarding things that are coming up on Friday, June 3rd. For the kids at the center, we're going to have the virtual graduation party. And if you've ever been to one, it's quite exciting because we have kids graduating from preschool, the kids that are graduating from kindergarten and elementary and middle school, high school, and even college. So that's June 3rd, 6 to 8. Also, it's summer camp time. The Wooten Center will have a summer camp that's going to be in person, and also there's going to be a hybrid camp. So if you know of any students that are interested in the camp, definitely check it out on our webpage. And just a little bit about the Green Foundation. The Green Foundation has an outreach and engagement arm. They deal with health and education, definitely early detection of cancer, breast health, and they present an annual Act Now conference. So definitely look into our sponsors, the Green Foundation. And as we were talking earlier, COVID is still here. People are still contracting COVID. In spite of our best efforts being vaccinated, fortunately, it's not as severe as it was in 2020. But if you know someone that needs COVID supports, definitely take a picture and scan the QR code because the Green Foundation has resources. So at this time, we're going to turn it over to Wendy. Wendy, thank you so much for being here. It was amazing. I heard so much about you from people that saw you this weekend. I go, we have her on Monday. So I feel so grateful for you to be here with us. So I'll let you have the controls of the Zoom right now.
Okay, so once you stop sharing your screen, then I'll start sharing mine.
Okay, there we are.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for, again, having me here today. And it is such a pleasure to be with you. And because we have such a heart for youth as well with Forgiving for Living, which is the organization that our family started back in 1999. And we, basically help girls between the ages of junior high through junior college. We started at just teenagers, but it expands. I mean, because now young people are wanting to start earlier and then they stay with us longer. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit about making it through tough times. As I just shared, I am the founder of Forgiving for Living, which is a nonprofit that helps girls and young women who've gone through issues of abuse, abandonment, low self-esteem, and we help them by providing them with life skills, mentorship, and then we also have college scholarships that we provide for some of the young ladies that come through us. On the for-profit side, some of you may know me. I used to own an event management firm for about 25 years in the Los Angeles area. And then I transitioned into doing more consulting, coaching, and strategic engagement. I'm also a columnist for both the Los Angeles Sentinel and the Inland Valley News. And then I'm a member of the Black Women Leaders of Los Angeles with Naomi, which is how I've gotten to know a little bit more about the Al Wooten Jr. Center, is through my relationship with Naomi. So today we're going to look at, because there are so many different things that plague us. Sorry, it's being very picky. Hold on, I'm sorry. I mean, very finicky. Okay. There are so many things that do plague us that really are things that we just are trying to deal with on a regular basis. And so I'd like to just kind of spend a little bit of time and share some things that hopefully will be of help. And if you have any questions for me at any time, you can put them in the chat box, and then we'll have plenty enough time at the end to go back and look at those questions, or you can just raise your hands at the end. But as Alberta was sharing, the pandemic is still lingering. We thought it was gone. We thought it was leaving, but it's still lingering. And so it's making people like real uneasy, not sure what to do, how to handle themselves, how to even deal with travel and loved ones. And do we go back to work? Do we stay at home? What are we doing? Then because of the pandemic, and not just the pandemic, but death of friends and loved ones, we seem to be taking a note that there's more and more every single day. Even in my own life, I have been experiencing loved ones who are passing away, some from COVID, but some not. I have a cousin right now that we just found out a week ago who has stage 4 cancer, who is struggling, and we're not sure much how longer he has. And then, of course, we have racism that we're dealing with every time we turn around. That's not even new, and it's still lingering. I mean, we just had a big example of it in Buffalo at Tops grocery store. And then people have lost their jobs. Income has gone down. Some people had a temporary, what I've learned from some of the research that we've been doing and some of the work we've been doing is that some people actually came up a little bit during the beginning of COVID because they were getting help through PPP or the EIDL loans. But then that started fizzling, but work still hadn't picked up. And so now they're really, really experiencing what it is to have the loss of some income. And then on top of income going down, inflation is going up. So then we're trying to keep up with, and we won't even talk about gas, and just what it costs to go anywhere right now. It's just ridiculous. I live in the Inland Empire, and I have people all the time like, can you just come in and let's just have coffee? I'll say, why don't you come out here and have coffee? And then they'll say, oh, but gas is so expensive. I said, it's expensive for me too. So it is something that we're all dealing with. And then there's the war, and it's across the globe. We know that it's happening between, Ukraine and Russia, but that's affecting us too, whether it's emotional, mental, and the fact that sometimes, especially we as African Americans, as Black people, we also want to know, why is the United States or the world as a whole caring more for the war with Ukraine than some things that were happening, in Somalia or Rwanda and all the other places with people of color. So all these things are just affecting us, and we're trying to figure out, how do we deal with it? How do we face it? So where do we find help and support? Okay, I'm sorry, this thing keeps, I don't know if it's because somebody is trying to get on, but it clicks, I'm sorry. So where do we find our help and support? And there's usually primarily outside of our family, 3 ways or 3 areas that we usually look to for support. The first one could be, and it's not necessarily in this particular order, but community-based organizations. Community-based organizations have been the backbone with the church for getting help within our communities for as long as we can remember, whether it's going back to something like, Operation Food Basket, or whether it's even doing something like, giveaways through the various entities, just like you were talking, Alberta, one of your sponsors, Green, how they have support for people that may be in need. Go ahead and say it.
The Green Foundation.
The Green Foundation, where they have different supplies and so forth, depending on what certain needs you may have. But community-based organizations are one of the main entities that help us. The second one is professional counseling. And there's nothing wrong with getting help, getting therapy. Sometimes within our community, we don't want to say that we need help through therapy. Sometimes we don't even want to admit we need help, period. But there is nothing wrong with getting the kind of help that you need for whatever situation you may be going through. And then, of course, there's the faith-based support, all depending on what your belief system is, whether, in terms of your church, your synagogue, your temple, wherever it is that you may go or attend in order to be able to be uplifted. And then the next one is where it gets into the meat of what I'm all about, is the power of forgiveness. In life, every one of us will have some encounter that will require forgiveness, especially when we're going through tough times. We will either need someone to extend it to us, or we will have to give it to them. It's a practice that some embrace with fluidity, while others reject it vehemently. There are many benefits to embracing forgiveness as a lifestyle. It's a tool that you can use both personally and professionally. And I truly believe it's never too late to start. Now, I see that there are 3 questions or 3 comments. Okay, I see that, it's just people signing in. I just wanted to make sure that I was sensitive if somebody had a question before we kept going. So I'm also an author. I didn't mention that in the beginning other than being a writer, but I wrote a book on the power of forgiveness. I've actually written 2 books. One is called The Preacher's Daughter, A Story, which is my life story. And then one, and I actually have that one right here. It's called Forgiveness, and basically change your life forever. And let me just share with you why that I'm a firm believer in the power of forgiveness. So for me in my life, which is even the foundation of how Forgiving for Living, our nonprofit, was started, is I was actually abandoned by my birth mother when I was 3 years old, and I was sexually abused by my father when I was a little girl. And so I know what it means to go through abandonment and abuse. I also know how the very 2 people that especially children look up to as it relates to their validation, confirmation of who they are, were the very 2 people who let me down. And so I struggled with self-esteem for a very long time and confidence. And yet when people would look at me, they never thought that, because they always saw, an outward appearance. And I think a lot of times we will look at people, and if they're all pulled together, so I'm going to just say this. So I see Miss Charlotte Henderson on here. She looks really pretty. Her hair is done. Her lipstick is on. She looks like she has on a really pretty red sweater or shirt. She looks all pulled together. But I have no idea inside what Miss Henderson has been through whatsoever. So just because she may look like she's, got it all together on the outside, it doesn't mean that. It just means she's known how to carry herself. But that doesn't mean she hasn't had struggles. And that's the thing, is oftentimes, we're looking at people, and because we've learned how to put on that face or that facade, or that, our armor to get out there and face the world. But sometimes we've not really healed from a lot of the things that we've had to deal with, even starting at childhood. It doesn't stop there. I also went through a divorce. I struggled with that for a long time, because as a Christian, I felt like, oh my gosh, I have just let, everybody down for going through a divorce. And that was 20 something years ago when I was married for 16 years to my children's dad. And then I went through a divorce, and I struggled with that because it was part of how I was raised with my grandmother and so forth about family. And so people have no idea sometimes the hidden hurts, the hidden pains that we wrestle with every day. And so I started thinking about that and understanding that when we talk about forgiveness, yes, it is about other people, but it's also about us learning how to forgive ourselves. Because as parents, as grandparents, because now I have grandchildren, we set the tone on a lot of ways on how they look at life. So if we don't even learn how to forgive ourselves, how are our kids and our grandkids and others that depend on us, how are they going to do it? So I want to talk to you about 10 steps. And I call this Healing Without Hate, How to Forgive to Live. And I don't know why it keeps jumping, but anyway, I also like have it on a bookmark that I give to people when I speak in public, but we're not together, so I can't give you one. But here's the 10 steps. So what I'm going to do is just take you through what these 10 steps are and how I share it with different people quickly so that it doesn't take too long, because I also want to give time for us to have a little dialogue, a little conversation, so that if there's some things that I can do to help you or to add some more light, I want to be able to do that. But these are the 10 steps that have helped me along my journey, whether it's forgiving my parents, because my parents divorced when I was very little. My mother was white and my father's African-American. My mother's family disowned her when she had a Black child and a Black husband. She couldn't handle that because she came from a middle-class environment, and she couldn't handle it, and she ended up leaving. My father was very much in the world back then. He eventually came to the Lord and became a minister many, many years later. But at that time, he was a musician and he was very involved in the world, got involved with drugs and alcohol, and was just really just lost to the world. And I became a victim of that. So what I learned from my grandmother, which is interesting, Alberta, when you were saying that you heard about me speaking this weekend, and I shared this story that my grandmother on my father's side, because I did not know my mother's family at all back then. I do know a few of them now, but I didn't growing up. But my grandmother, she was firstborn generation free in our family. And a lot of people say, okay, Wendy, I'm trying to do the math on that. Like, how could that happen? But my grandmother was born in 1901. Her father was born in 1861. Her father was my grandmother's mother was the second marriage of her father, because his first wife died in childbirth. And when he married my grandmother's mother, my great grandmother, she was 16 and her father was in his 40s. So my grandmother actually was the firstborn generation free in our family. And she was born in the South from Texas. She grew up in Marshall, Texas, went to Bishop College, which is where she met my grandfather. And they eventually, of course, came west, which is how I'm here. But my grandmother always taught me as a little girl when I would be hurting or when I, just couldn't understand certain things that were happening in life when I was very young. And she said, to pray. And I know some people don't believe in prayer. So I also talk about meditation, which is basically just being still with yourself and communicating. And for me, it was communicating with God. And through prayer, what I learned is it kind of calms you. It calms your nerves, it calms your spirit, and it allows you to be able to think clearly, even as a young person. Sometimes we don't give kids enough credit that if they're taught certain tools, how they also will be able to just kind of calm their spirit. My second tip is about counsel, which I was talking about. We should never be afraid of getting the proper help we need, whether it's through a therapist, whether it's through someone in your faith, even if it's a trusted friend. But just be careful, because oftentimes when we just go to friends, is it really getting counsel, or is it really just, talking where they may share, and then you really have more problems because now more people know about certain things that you don't want other people to know. So you have to be very careful who you seek counsel from. And then the third point is called confront, which to me is all about facing it head on. When I do presentations, I always tell people the thing about confronting is when you look through a window, you're looking at someone else. So that means sometimes you have to confront someone else about what they've done. But when you look in a mirror, you're looking back at yourself. So sometimes it's important for us to look even at ourselves to find out, what role did we play? How did we add to a situation? Because sometimes, given what you may be dealing with, we may have been guilty of playing a role in causing a problem. And I'm not talking about like when I was a kid and what happened to me. I'm just talking about in general, certain issues that we deal with that need forgiveness and that we have to heal from. And sometimes we have to own up to what our part is in a situation. Step 4 is about release. And what I mean about that is, I often talk about, the importance, like if you ball your fist up really hard and count to 10, and then you open your palms up, you'll begin to feel a lot of like little tingliness that just comes up out of your hand, especially when you've pressed down so hard. That's stress. That's stress leaving your body. And that's like why it's so important to release. And release can be done in so many ways. It's important to exercise. It's important to go for a walk. It's important for us to just sometimes learn to just let something go, because we don't always have control over a situation. We can only control ourselves and how we respond to a situation. Releasing is not always even about the other person. It's about ourselves and making sure we don't go crazy, because we can let things make us go absolutely crazy. And sometimes, when I talk to people and I have group sessions, and we'll say, but I just need to do something. I need to do something more tangible than just release. Then I say, if there's somebody that's hurt you, but you can't go to them, or either they've passed away, or you don't know where they are, or they refuse to connect with you, then you can write them a letter and write all your feelings down, put everything you want, and then you can just go to the mailbox, just put a first name on the envelope, and that's it, and put it in the mailbox. And believe me, the post office knows what to do with that. Just like they get Dear Santa Claus letters every year, they know what to do with those. They get anonymous letters. Believe me, I've talked to my post office about it from time to time. And that can help you have a tangible way of releasing something and letting it go. Because if somebody has gone on, you can't do anything about that. They're gone on to glory. If somebody's in prison and you don't know how to get in touch with them, or if somebody has walked away from your life, you can't control any of that, but you can release it still and let it go. Step 5 is called forgive, and it's pardon versus parole. Now, this is really important, because this is kind of the middle, the cornerstone of everything when it comes to forgiveness. And that is, oftentimes we say, all right, I forgive her, but if she does that again, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. Well, you really haven't forgiven her, because you still have strings attached. And that's where pardon versus parole. Parole is what we usually do to people. We parole them on forgiveness. We put all these strings attached to it. We make them, step up and do this and that. And if they just step wrong one time, I don't forgive you anymore, or whatever. Versus when you pardon someone, pardon means as if it didn't happen. And it doesn't mean how it didn't happen to you in terms of what they did to you. It means that how it affects you today in moving forward. Please be clear on that. When I say pardon as if it didn't happen, I'm not saying that if somebody hurt you, that they get away with it and that they shouldn't be held accountable, because that's wrong. Yes, they do. But I'm talking about how they control your mind, your heart, and your spirit. Because oftentimes you would be so surprised when people have hurt you, they don't even remember and they don't even care. And you are holding on to stuff from 5 years ago. You talking about, well, when we were at the family reunion, they did such and such. What? They don't even remember or care. And you've been carrying that, and it's just been bringing you down, and it's just been this heaviness. It's a heaviness that just, and then what happens is sometimes, let's say it's your cousin, and your cousin has some kids, and those kids call you auntie. You don't even want to see the kids, because you're holding the kids accountable for what their parents did, so we just have to remember that when it comes to forgiveness, don't parole them, just pardon them, because at the end of the day, they're going to pay a price for whatever they've done. Believe me, one way or another, they're going to have to own up to that. but then at least it can stop controlling you. And then number 6, I talk about an attitude of gratitude. And the thing about it is the fact that we're still here, we have an opportunity to get it right, to keep moving, to build, to make something happen. But if our attitude is stinking and all messed up, we're still going to stay stuck. We're going to stay stuck. So, like I used to tell my children, the glass is half full, not half empty, and have an attitude of gratitude. Don't say, good God, it's morning. Say, good morning, God. It's another day. It's about our attitude, and we can make that determination. We can decide how we want to approach another day. When my kids were little and they had bad attitudes, or I could tell they were just messed up. They just didn't have a good day. I would tell them to just go to bed. I'd say, okay, just go to bed. Just go wash your face and hands, brush your teeth, and go to bed. And I said, we're going to start all over again tomorrow. And you know what? Sometimes that's what we need to do too. We just need to go to bed and just get some rest. Because I would have to say, I don't know all of you that are on this Zoom right now, but the fact that you're on this Zoom means that you're a caring person, which means, because otherwise you could be doing 100 other things right now. So you're caring about the kids, you're caring about your community, you're caring about yourself to be better and to do better, which means that you're probably extending yourself to do a whole lot of other things, which means you're probably getting tired and you're not able to even take care of yourself the best that you can and should. And I've been guilty. We all been guilty, because when we're out here really trying to make a difference, it happens. And then we start feeling guilty for taking time off to take care of ourselves. But you have to. So, because like they say in the airplane, put your mask on first before you try to help someone else, because otherwise you might die and they may die, because we didn't take care of ourselves first. So our families, our community, our friends, they need us, but they need us to also be at our best, which means we have to take care of ourselves. And then number 7, joy and happiness. When we're going through things and times get tough, which I know all of us have been going through some things, it's important to remember where your joy comes from. Your joy is deep down inside. Joy is that inner feeling, emotion, core values that nobody can take away from you, no matter what. That's what our ancestors stood on when they were going through it. And they were going through it in a whole different way than we are today. Not that we're not going through stuff, but theirs was a little bit different, as we know. And so they had to have something deep down inside. That's that spirit that rumbles within your soul. You got to have that. Now, happiness is about what's happening around you. So that means you can control that. So for me, what I do is there's some things I love. I love pictures of my family. So all through my house, I have lots of pictures of my family, and I'm always searching and looking for a new one, and I've been on this journey of doing some of my family history, and I've been finding pictures of my grandmother when she was a little, young woman, not a little girl, but a young woman. I now have a picture of hold on. I just took these out for something else and I hadn't put them up yet. So this was my grandmother when she was a young woman. And I just love this picture of my grandmother. And then this is my grandmother's mother. So this is my great grandmother. And then this is my grandmother's grandmother when she was a slave. So this was my great grandmother. So, I have pictures all around my house in every room of different members of the family. And now I've got grandbabies. I got to show you this one. So I have 2 children, a son and a daughter. My daughter's not married yet. She's 38, no children. My son's 33, will be 34 this year. He's married and has 3 kids. My children look nothing like me whatsoever. They look like their father. If you didn't know they came out of me, you would never know they're my children. But my grandchildren look just like me. So I found this picture of me when I was in 6th grade with an afro. This is my grandson with his little afro. So I put these pictures up and they call me Mimi. He says, Mimi, I have hair like you, Mimi. He said, Mimi, I look like you. And so that's part of the reason why I even do this, is because I want them to also see their heritage. I want them to see where they come from. That makes me happy. I put those things around me. I love candles. I have candles everywhere. And I love the way nice smelling candles smell. I love tea. And I'm not going to lie, I like a nice glass of wine from time to time. So I like certain things that I keep around me so that when the world's getting heavy and things are getting tough, I can just turn around and I can see the pictures of my grandbabies and my ancestors. I can go and get a cup of tea. I can go get a glass of wine. I can light a candle, and my spirit just gets refreshed. And I just stop and say, thank you, Jesus. And so those are the things that I can control by having them all around me. But that joy, that's still there no matter what. But sometimes I need a little help. And that's why that happiness and the things around us can help us get through those tough times. Number 8, goals. Now, we can talk a lot about what we want, but if we don't write it down, it's just a dream. Now, there's nothing wrong with dreams, because a lot of stuff starts with a dream. But if you really want to see that dream come to fruition, you got to have a goal. And you might be saying, Wendy, what does a goal have to do with forgiveness and healing and all that? Well, when you have goals, it helps you to take your mind off of some of the other stuff and focus on where you want to go. It helps us to not be so in a pity party where how things are, but we can stay focused on where we're going to go and what we want and how we want to change certain things for us, for our family, for our community. And then when it's written down, we can begin to see and chart progress. I even believe in vision boards, where you have a vision board, and I'll share. I actually have literally a vision board. So, and I divide it into personal and professional. I have a personal side and professional side of like what I want, how I want to get, do that. And then I can check it on a regular basis to see, how am I doing? How's it coming along? Where am I lagging? Where do I need help? But the goals then help me to stay focused on a better day, not my trials and tribulations I might be going through at that moment. And so that's why I feel that goals also are important. And then number 9, give. You might be saying, well, Wendy, I have nothing to give. That's not true. If we're here, we all have something to give, and give is not just money. Sometimes you might just need to give lend an ear for someone to talk to. Listen, you'd be surprised how many lonely people are out there. I know. I work with them. I help them. But there are a lot of lonely people that just feel like nobody cares. Nobody wants to listen to them. Nobody wants to talk to them. So that's one of the things we can do, giving them constructive, advice and criticism to help them grow and to be better. Providing resources, giving them the phone numbers and the addresses of where they can go to get something that you can't provide. So there's always something we can give, and giving of your time is so important. And then number 10 is, I just believe in live life now. I was diagnosed with cancer 26 years ago, and I've now been cancer-free for 23 years. And so when that happened to me, it was around the same time I went through the divorce with my children's dad. I just learned how important it is to live, because tomorrow's not promised. And a lot of times people talk about what they're going to do tomorrow. Well, why put off for tomorrow what you can do today? I know you can't do everything today, but start learning to enjoy life today. Try to do your best to be a balanced life, where you work hard, but play hard, where you save, but do a few things for yourself and others. Learn to live a balanced life where it's not too off balance, because, truly also at the end of the day, when all is said and done and we're about to end our life on this earth, it's not about how much money we've really made. It's really about the lives we've touched. We start looking for our children, our grandchildren, our friends, our community. That's what's really important, is to live in such a way that you can make a really strong impact on not only your life, but their life, so that dash between the day we were born and the day we go home meant something. It stood for something, and that you'll be missed. I think it's sad when people pass away and they're not even missed, because what did they do? you know, so we want to make sure that we stood for something while we were alive. In closing, I really love this quote, and it's by Desmond Tutu, and it's from his book, The Book of Forgiving, The Fourfold Path for Healing Ourselves and Our World. And he says, transformation begins in you, wherever you are, whatever has happened, however you are suffering. Transformation is always possible. We do not heal in isolation. When we reach out and connect with one another, when we tell the story, name the hurt, grant forgiveness, and renew or release the relationship, our suffering begins to transform. So just remember that, you know, we're all in this together, and we have to help one another. We have to be there for one another, and we have to sometimes get out of our own selfishness in order to help somebody else on their journey. But when it's time for you to take care of yourself too, don't feel guilty for that, because all of that is going to be what helps to make a difference in your healing, and when you heal, our communities heal. So I pray and hope that I was able to share something today that will be a blessing that you'll be able to take with you. If you like, I can also, Alberta, email you this PowerPoint. It's very simple, but you can have it for your team and for your people, and hopefully, you know, it'll make a difference. And so at this time, I just really wanted to make myself available to answer questions or just to be here for whatever you need.
Coach Wendy, you don't know how timely you are, because like you said, everybody's going through something.
Mm-hmm.
But when you know almost everybody on here, you know they all going through something. And
right.
So this was just so timely. And it's definitely one that we will send to people that are not here, just to hear it. But there was a couple of things you said that totally reminded me of things. For example, on here, all my sisters on from my one family, except one, and she's in Georgia. So okay. She would be in the middle of the night. And she had said, in terms of just the grief that's going on, that folks that have died, that haven't died before, you know, in terms of just, you know, she's in Georgia.
I understand. Mm-hmm.
Overwhelmed by death, and especially with COVID and all those things. And so it's really been hard. And it's been hard because folks haven't been able to mourn. You know, some people haven't been able to go to funerals, or even some people haven't been able to be with people. Like you had mentioned, you had a cousin that has some terminal illness.
Yeah, and he's in Arkansas.
Yeah, and you know, you're like, okay, I could fly in there, I be exposed to everything, make them sick. You know, I had a friend that I really wanted to be there, but you didn't want to make him sicker, you know, and so you feel bad because it's like, oh God, I missed this last couple of days,
right?
You know, so everybody is carrying so much, and we truly appreciate you being here talking about it. So, anybody else?
My pleasure.
Hello. Hey, Alberta.
Hi, Ms. Henderson.
Oh, you know, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Alberta, for the invite always. And Wendy, I'm listening to you, and really, be truthful. I just got off a plane not too long ago, and I was like, you know, I don't know, I'm feeling kind of tired. I'm not going to get, you know, and I was like, you know, no, I'm going to get on, you know, because I seen what the title and everything was. But if I can tell you, I'm listening to you tell your story, and I'm just like, it's like a mirror to me. You know, I mean, I know everybody goes through things, but listening to your story, just brought back some things, and even in you saying, you just right on point, because you never know. You just look at people and you think, oh, they have it together, and you don't really know like their history. You don't know what they are going through every day, because, people, they come out, they look like they're okay,
right.
but you're telling your story, and it was so similar for me, and it's not a story that now that I keep like as a secret, because everything you said, that whole process, I had to go through, I went through that. So I know what you're talking about. But if I would have had someone like you, in the beginning to kind of like walk through this whole thing, what you're saying to do, I did all that, but not really knowing what the outcome was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, you have these, because, I had a traumatic childhood, let's just say, abandonment. It was just really, and everything you're saying on that list, I'm going with you, and I'm like, wow. And it's in order, like the things that I had to do, the confronting, the whole, releasing everything, and once I did that, it was like this just lifted off of me. It was a release, because you're holding in stuff and you're not able to let it out. You're not able to talk about it, and confronting, you said, the person who's supposed to, take care of you, the most important person that, is supposed to be dead, was the person that ended up hurting you.
Right.
And how do you deal with that? And right. For years, it's like, but it happened to me also. Mm-hmm. And I had to do that work, and but not knowing that was the steps. But it was like a confirmation really for me now, that I'm like, okay, yeah, because I knew I felt better when, I did it, and when you say confronting, not like arguing, but really going and letting the person know how you felt or what that did to you.
Right.
And it's not, and you're right, it's not for them. It really is for you.
It really is.
Mm-hmm. It is for you. And, that took a lot off of me. It was like, it was a big relief. Now I'm able to, talk to other people and, and let them know, if they're going through some things, they come to me or whatever, and not knowing really, because I don't really divulge a whole lot of information, but, they don't even know half of the history that I had myself, but I had to work through it,
Mm-hmm.
So I just say all that to say that, it's really right on point, everything, because I experienced it. So I know it does work personally. So for anyone, he's like, okay, I don't know if I can do it. Yeah, it works, because it helped me,
Guess what? I see that there's something else you and I have in common.
Yeah.
I see the pictures on the wall behind you, which means you like having surrounded by your family.
And when you said that, because I put up pictures of my family, around, mm-hmm. And, it's just, I'm listening to you and I'm just agreeing, and I'm like, wow, because I really can relate to everything that you're saying.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
And Charlotte, I thought of you too, because a couple of weeks ago, you went to a funeral and a wedding in the same day.
Same day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
No one would have known, you know what I mean? So it's
yeah. And it's hard, because I've never had to do that, and to, go to a funeral and a wedding in the same day. Who does that? And I'm like, wow, mm-hmm. But it's okay. I don't think I would have been able to handle it. And you know what? And another point that I have to say, and I recognize, is the godly life that you're living. It's like, I know a lot of people don't believe in God or whatever, like that. But like you say, for me, that too really, really, really helped me, because, I was a little hot-headed, and, it's like you're sometimes because you're angry inside, you were holding all of that in. It's like, almost like they say the angry Black woman, but it's when you get into, and let God get into your life and you start to, you're right. And a lot of that helps, it releases a lot off of you.
Yeah,
it changes you completely because you have a whole different mindset. It's like, nothing can't bother me anymore. Not saying that, you just, but it's like, it happens, but you don't react the way you used to.
The other thing too, for me, and I just have to sometimes be careful, because when you're doing things in nonprofit worlds and stuff where people get public funding and all that, you have to be careful what you talk about or how you say. But whenever anybody, asks me to come and speak and tell my story, then I can't leave Jesus out. I can't leave Christ out. I can't leave God out, because for me, that was what saved me. So, and my grandmother was the one who took me to church as a little girl. And at first I used to think, why am I, sitting here? But it ended up, implanting something inside of me that stayed with me my entire life. It ended up being the cornerstone for me in my life. And the thing that also, I think, as you get older too, and now that I'm in my 60s with grandkids and stuff, I start to think, you know what, I'm just going to tell it like it is. I just tell how I feel. I don't worry about what other people think like you used to. You also always want to be politically correct and do this. Not, of course, I'm respectful, but I'm going to say the thing about when you've come through things and then you're centered with the Lord, you also really understand when people say hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. So a lot of us have gone through some hurt because we were hurt by somebody who was hurting. So if we want to break that cycle in our families, in our communities, we got to feel like we have to find out, how do we get out of that hurt?
Right.
How do we heal? And we can't do it alone. You know what I mean? So that's when we need support systems, like I was sharing, community-based organizations, professional help, faith-based, we need help, but somebody has to be willing within a family to step up, do what needs to be done in order to break some cycles within that family. If we want to really help the next generation, because eventually we're going to be gone. And if we haven't done our job of laying the right foundation for the generations behind us, if we think they got issues now, they're really going to have issues. So it's incumbent upon us. It's our job to do that.
Yeah, it is. And I believe that because I had to, it was like, because I couldn't take it anymore. It was like this never spoken thing in the family. Like, everybody knows, but nobody is saying anything, like it's totally forgotten, but everybody screwed up, and, it was like, I just wondered, and because I was always a quiet one in the family too, never, saying anything, always, observing and being quiet, but, it was like, this is, it's like stifling me. So I have to, I had to get it out. And once I did, it was like, whew, and after that, and then with the, help of being in church, it did, your whole world just opened up. It does. And it, it's just amazing, but just thank you for that today. I'm glad I jumped on because it just really confirmed a lot and let me know that I am on the right track.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. And Wendy, one thing I thought about when you were talking and you were saying how you were a writer and about writing it down, because I don't know if you've done this, but I was thinking a writing workshop with Wendy would be something amazing in terms of helping people kind of write things down. Because folks, when it comes to writing down or telling your story, it's really hard. And then sometimes having those folks.
So this is a workbook. It's called Healing Without Hate. And I have a picture of a really pretty package on the cover.
Yeah.
And that's where I talk about sometimes where people or things can look a certain way and look all pretty on the outside. But like with this package, if somebody has thrown this around, and let's say there was a nice porcelain teacup inside. Well, by the time I actually gave it to you, it's broken because it was fragile on the inside and it wasn't properly handled on the outside, although it still looked nice. Mm-hmm. So with this workbook, this is a workbook that when you talk about a writing workshop with Wendy, it's where basically what I was sharing with you, those 10 steps, where we take each one of the 10 steps but then you can write, so we kind of go a little bit deeper into, each one of the steps, like counsel, and I have more that we talk about, but then on the next page is where you can write, so I do workshops on stuff like that. I mean, of course I haven't for a couple of years because of COVID, but yeah, that's part of, what I do offer and what I do. And it's to help people. And a lot of times, because I'm really big into journaling and I have like too many journal books everywhere, because I do believe that sometimes when you can just get it out and get it off your mind and off your heart, it can just free you to just go on. It doesn't mean you forget, but it does mean that you don't let it control you the same way.
Before we let you go, Wendy, if you can give us your website,
okay, I'll put it in the chat right
with you.
Yeah,
because I know you have to go, but we're not letting you go. We're gonna let you go today, but we're gonna grab you again.
Okay. So I just put in my website and here's my email.
Wendy, I listened to you when you were on the front page, so I'm glad I tuned in again.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
And you're Felicia?
Yes, and you
Hi,
are always
Felicia.
on. Hi, how are you? You're always on with Dominique DePrima front page early in the morning, which is when I go to work. So it's always good to hear "Forgiving for Living." That's my motto.
Yeah. I live by it. I believe in it.
Yes,
I could tell you so much more, but we just didn't have time for me to go through the whole story. But I wanted to make sure I left some nuggets because so many of us are going through some tough times that if I could just give you a few things to help you on the journey right now, it can make a difference.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for popping on so I can say hi to you.
And knowing our history was another thing that, first of all, we're PK kids too, several of us on here. And knowing our history is one of those things, because at my father's funeral, you had that cousin that came and spilled all the tea. And now his grandmama was a slave. You're like, okay, cousin. And the slave master was the grandfather. And so you just realize people always want to move on for slavery, but we're not that far away from it.
I mean, we really aren't. I mean, like I say, when I can touch the hem of the garment of a woman who was first generation, we're not that far,
Right.
And my daughter, which would be her great granddaughter, also spent time with her grandmother. Now, my son's children, of course, now she's gone on, but it's just, I don't know. It's not far back as people may think.
Yeah.
So,
anyone else have anything they would like to say? We'll track Wendy down again. And I know you're so busy. She was just at the National Council of
the NCNW.
Negro Women. They had a purple hat a banquet last weekend, and a lot of folks we know went. And but it was such a busy weekend, and we heard wonderful things about you, Wendy. So I was really excited that you made time to be here.
Of course, we're you know what, we're in this together. And Alberta, I just emailed you right now the PowerPoint I used in case you want to share it with anyone as well.
We'll do. I'll get that out to everyone. We'll make our own bookmarks, and we can maybe start writing now.
Okay,
writing our little story.
That sounds good.
Well, once again, thank you, Wendy. I want to thank everyone for being here. If you didn't, remember to put your name and your zip code in the chat, and we will meet again the first week in June. It's June already. Wow. because next week is Memorial Day. So we wish everyone, you know, a safe Memorial Day, and we will see you then. Well, Wendy, thanks again. And Charlotte, thank you so much for joining in. I didn't expect you because I knew you were just out of town for, she had some relatives that just graduated.
Congratulations.
So, yes. So we appreciate you hopping
Congratulations.
on.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually getting ready to jump on. Are you familiar with the California Black, the California Black Women's Collective?
Yes.
Kelly Todd?
Yes.
So that's what I have to jump on at 7 because I'm doing, working on trying to help Martin Luther King Hospital with Assembly Bill 2426 to get more funding for their emergency room.
Oh, that's great. Actually, I was just by there today because I stopped by King Drew.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been there a lot of times. I realized it's right across the street from, so that they definitely need that in that area.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good evening. Thank you again. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.